back to Take Action News, everybody. David Shuster here. That music is our Daniel Marin's theme music. It is time for one of your favorite segments, How It Should Be. How It Should Be. And again, a series of segments leading up to the inauguration in just a couple of weeks. Daniel Marin's, we've made a lot of progress on social issues, some stagnation in terms of economic issues. Take it away from there.
Well, David, there's been a theme of my series leading up to this point, and I think that I clearly am more interested and more invested in economic policy. It's not because I don't care about social policy. I want same-sex marriage to be a reality for all Americans. I want all Americans to have access to abortions, and I know that in some parts of the country that's not very easy. But I see us moving forward on those issues. I see it being trendy, it being cool. I see the people that have the most power in the country being willing to move the ball forward on those issues because it doesn't necessarily threaten their power. And what I'm talking about is something that we talked about a little bit earlier with Matt Stoller, and that is the idea, the scandal and the shame that a handful of corporations in today's America can lobby the government using legal campaign dollars and influence to get massive multi-billion-dollar tax carve-outs that literally reduce their tax burden to less than zero in the case of General Electric and many other corporations. And at the same time, the idea that median income in this country has gone down significantly in the past 4 years. It's the class war. It's the distribution of wealth. Whatever you want to call it, it's the fact that the amount of wealth that we're producing is going to a smaller and smaller number of people, and the opportunity to pay for things like education and healthcare and provide a comfortable life for most Americans is disappearing. And what do I mean that it's cooler to support social issues and not talk about making rich people pay higher taxes, making corporations pay more of their fair share, making the government negotiate more with the drug companies? Well, let me give you an example of a few of the Democratic rising stars that have made this a trend. And I'm going to bring it back to the president at the end because I think he stands at a crossroads on this very important philosophical issue. Democrats in deep blue states have used this recession as an opportunity to inflict sometimes terrible austerity on their constituents. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, who inherited a 1% millionaire's surtax on incomes in the state above $1 million. Now, New York is home to some of the largest concentrations of wealth in the country. Wall Street, period. Some of the largest commercial interests. And yet Andrew Cuomo said, this surtax is going to expire. He had the majority in the Democratic legislature to do whatever he wanted with that surtax. He could have raised taxes if he wanted to. No. Instead, he let it expire and cut Medicaid for the poor. Bravo, Andrew Cuomo. Way to go. And the thing is that he's perceived that makes him a national contender who's looking to move to the center by letting millionaire taxes expire and screwing over poor people. That's something we need to change. I don't know that we really need a place for that in the Democratic Party. He should be primaried. Jerry Brown in California, another deep blue state, refused to sign the Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights because he was too concerned that paying them a decent wage or making sure that they had time off and space to do what they wanted would somehow that the impact that this would have on the people that they're taking care of needed to be studied and measured first. So the people, the poor immigrant workers that we pay $7 and $8 an hour to literally wipe the crap out of our grandparents' asses. I kid you not, and it's okay for me to say that word on the radio because I think it's whatever. The point is, we care more. We care so much about the way the grandparents are treated, but not the people that are paid minimum wage off the books and without vacation time and healthcare to do the job. No, that's hypocrisy. And the last thing that I'll point out is Mayor Bloomberg in New York City, and his most likely successor, Christine Quinn. Again, on bread and butter economic issues, on all the social issues, even on gun, and we know that he's a leader on climate change, on gun control. Fine, great. We can work with Mayor Bloomberg on that. that's fantastic. And he's also not a Democrat, so he's not hurting the brand. But when it came time, when the heavily liberal New York City Council passed a measure or wanted to pass a measure that would require companies that have multi-million-dollar contracts with New York City to pay a living wage, and they kept narrowing it down, giving more exemptions to companies. And what's a living wage? It would just be slightly higher than the minimum wage. It would be $10 an hour, which still is basically a poverty wage. Mayor Bloomberg thought it would kill jobs. City contracts, people that are getting money from the city to do this work, and he thought it would kill jobs. Why? Because the people that he hangs out with and the circles that he thinks of are looking to squeeze every drop out of the profit margins and aren't necessarily in touch with just how brutal it is to be working as a low-wage worker. And the same thing with Christine Quinn, who has held off on her support for paid sick leave in the city as city council president, and she has the power to let the veto override that. And women activists like Gloria Steinem and Ai-jen Poo, the head of the National Domestic Workers Alliance, have said that they will not endorse her unless she supports that. The point of the matter is liberty feels good, freedom feels good, but security and solidarity sometimes have gotten a little bit lost in our memory culturally as Americans. But if we can't use this moment and this time when we have a Democratic president in power, when we've had one of the worst recessions in American history, when we have record inequality, and when we have a rising tide of young people that have very, very different views on this, and an increasing number of people of color in the country who are more likely to be in these low wage positions, then this will have been wasted. And so the way it should be is that providing people with a very basic standard of living and dignity in retirement, not just looking at all of these programs as if they're numbers on a ledger, as I think unfortunately the president sometimes has, but moving the ball forward and moving us forward and out of what has really been a relapse to the 1920s in terms of plutocracy, concentrated wealth, and narrower economic opportunity. So that should be as much of a priority as gay rights, as much of a priority as reproductive rights. And we need to make it that way. And we need to say it's not acceptable for any Democrats, whether they're Andrew Cuomo or Jerry Brown in California, or whether they're President Barack Obama, if they don't do that. That's how I believe it should be.
Daniel Marans, you can follow him on Twitter at Daniel Marans. And folks, we discovered Daniel Marans first on this show. You know this guy's headed for great things. Daniel, that was a great stuff. We appreciate it so much.